This podcast is brought to you by the Liars Club, where telling the truth will get you the boot.
That's what you get when you build a church on the family values of Henry VIII.
The duty of the woman is the housewoman.
Tell that to the kids in the South Bronx, which are suffering from the highest rates of childhood asthma in the country.
You killed 1 million people in Iraq.
I'm a community organizer. I organize people to fight for their rights. I don't like this system of profit. I don't like Ronald Reagan. I don't like the way he smells. I don't like his movies. I don't like anything about the government. Me, they'll lock away.
If we tell the American public that we are more willing to invest and bail out big banks than we are willing to invest in our farmers and our urban families, then I don't know what we're here doing.
To keep law and order in this society than to be worried about weak-kneed people who don't like the looks of a
at any cost? At any cost? How far would you go with that? How far would you extend that?
Well, just watch me.
Welcome to my podcast. I'm your host, Brad Deep, and you're listening to Rants from the Deep. Today's episode, Rants in the Pants, is a simple introduction to the concepts I want to discuss during Season 1. I just want to prepare you for what's coming. So when the next episode releases next week, you'll know what to expect. You're probably wondering what the podcast is about. Well, it's about everything that sucks, and believe me, the planet is littered with so many droppings of dung every day, fermenting and putrefying, that I have enough material to talk about for several lifetimes. I want to rant about everything that irritates me to the tilt, which every time causes a peristaltic rush in my large intestine, inevitably leading to frustration and chronic diarrhea. I want to say out loud what most of you keep to yourselves. I'm not interested in discussing the difference between a begonia and a petunia, or whether keto is better than the South Beach diet, even though both topics have some merit. I want to talk about topics that are moot and polarizing, which may be vexing to many. I want to touch a nerve because my nerves are raging. I want to talk about the differences between the Democrats and the Republicans because they're all gangbanging us in the ass daily. I want to talk about why we buy the Vaseline to make it so easy for them. I'm not interested in saints and commandments because I'm too busy raging at the way religious organizations are a mockery of everything that is morally right, but still thrive in the name of God because the masses are half-wits with their heads so far up their asses they can predict the time of their next bowel movement. I don't want to talk about fake eyelashes and Botox injections because I would much rather discuss what all the fuss about gender benders is. I'm not interested in talking about the latest designer suits and the funkiest hair gels. I prefer focusing on major brands that cancel lucrative celebrity endorsements when they don't like what they hear but continue to use sweatshops to mass produce their shit. I'm not interested in what's on special at the grocery store because there's always a catch. I'm more interested in figuring out why every time I get to the cash register to pay, the person ahead of me is always the one that can't find his credit card or forgot something or has no clue what he's doing there in the first place. I'm not interested in talking about the trendiest nightclubs and the best dating apps. I would rather shed some light on why the United States of America has become one big first-person shooter. And I'm not interested in discussing the reasons why certain people are pro-vax and others are anti-vax. I want to understand why a morbidly overweight person that can barely tie his shoelaces or see his penis when he stands up is suddenly adamant about being vaccinated to protect himself from dying. I'm not interested in how much influencers make on TikTok. I want to understand why some female influencers on social media with vacuous minds and nothing interesting to say can make millions of dollars by simply showing some tits and ass. I don't want to hear about the Pope's forgiveness. I prefer talking about the Pope's friends, assembling some of the finest colon commandos, molesting and raping children, and seldom paying the price. I don't want to talk about a teenage athlete that made a dumb mistake when he showed pics of his sexual exploits with a girl to his friends without her permission. I want to talk about the millions of people that crucified the kid in public, but continue to be fervent Catholics and buy brands made in sweatshops by exploited and underpaid children. I don't want to hear about anti-abortion movements. I want to know how an anti-abortion dad would celebrate Christmas with the man that raped his daughter because all lives matter. This podcast is a great remedy for people with a chip on their shoulder. You'll be able to vicariously experience the exhilaration I feel when I rant about this shit. If you wake up in the morning and you don't like what you see in the mirror, maybe because you've gained weight or have a few pimples on your face and it depresses you, just listen to my rants and I guarantee you'll feel better. If your better half dumped you and you feel the urge to blow your head off or blow someone else's head off, this podcast may prevent you from pulling the trigger. If you have mental health problems, or you've got a parent that's losing his marbles and you just want to give up, wait before you do anything dramatic and use this podcast to make you realize you're not alone. If you're a boy and you want to be a girl, or the other way around, or anything in between for that matter, and you want to do something stupid, just listen to the podcast and let out some steam with me. Life is hard, so why not complain about what we hate to release the stress instead of keeping everything to yourself and creating acidity, which causes your pH levels to rise, which is not good. If you're a woman stuck in a pernicious, vicious circle, abused by a partner that says he loves you after every beating, you need to find a closet somewhere in the house with Wi-Fi and listen to the podcast. It'll make you realize that you need to get the hell out of there like yesterday. If you have a disability and you feel lonely because the truth is no one really gives a shit, you'll find comfort in what I have to say. If you wake up in the morning to the same miserable job with the same shitty salary so you can merely exist, instead of actually live, and day in and day out, you continue to eat fast food on the fly and ingest vacuous television content, watch clueless influencers, and you're crawling under credit card debts that will soon send your life crashing down like a house of cards, this podcast might snap you out of your coma. If you're in a boring relationship with limitations that don't allow you to be yourself, stuck in a grueling daily routine until infinity, pretending to be in love, but in fact, your two favorite things are eating and taking a shit, it's time you snap out of it and realize you're wasting your life. If you love yourself and all you do is constantly take selfies and post them on social media so people can compliment you, even though most of them are lying to your face, you need to listen to this podcast. You might realize that social media is a tragedy, and it's slowly but surely disconnecting you from your higher self. If you're a professional procrastinator, always postponing what you can do today until tomorrow, finding yourself delaying what you already delayed, and never getting anything done, overwhelmed by everything around you, this podcast might give you a reason to change. If you're stranded on a boat in the middle of nowhere or stuck in a cave with a grizzly bear trying to eat you, if you're fighting in the trenches because you're following orders, even if they don't make sense, put your gun down and come to your senses. You're fighting the wrong war. Listen to the podcast. If I haven't convinced you yet, it's all good. You can put on your blinders, keep your butt cheeks tight, and walk a straight line. The bullshit will never stop coming. So tie your seatbelt, put on your helmet, lower your visor, and hope for the best. For those of you still interested, the next episode of Rants from the Deep will be a dandy. If you're into liars, con men, sex, and the circus, tune in for our episode titled Politics, Pricks, and Chicks. Until then, have a good one. Peace out. I'm Brad Deep, and this was Rants from the Deep.
We shall